I'm going to talk about this bicycle trip, talk about the end of it, from memory, what I was carrying. So in the front left bag, I had 3 inner tubes, which I used only one at about 1,800 miles. There was Gatorade, powdered Gatorade, which I should have used more of. I had a book, maybe 2, in this front saddlebag. I like to call them saddlebags because I'm a motorcycle guy at heart, but they're panniers. My medical things were in the front also. Anything I needed to take care of my body was up front. On the front right was my sleeping bag, only, always, for the second half. Let's see, riding on back is a big tarp, almost too big, but a few times I had to just put each corner down to the ground to stay dry, and everything stayed pretty much dry. In the tarp was my tent, my bivvy tent, which was starting to fall apart. I'm checking on this shuttle van. My sleeping pad was in the back, in the tarp. My tent stakes. I had a plastic ground cover, which was quite nice for the second part. It was just like a spreadsheet that you put on the ground for painting, cut to fit the tent. Also, the maps were rolled up in the tarp. My sandals, I had flip-flops that I used only 3 or 4 times, but I'd say it was worth having just to have another pair of shoes to put on, because I wore those army boots every day, and I put baby powder in those army boots almost every day, and only felt uncomfortable a few times with those boots. I'd much rather have those boots for the shrubbery and things like that, because I did go into the bushes a few times. Okay, so on the left pannier was all of my clothing, clean, dirty. The water filter was in the left pannier, the back pannier. The right back pannier was food, camera, and through the desert I had water, extra water on both sides. I had a tank bag on the front, mostly tools, batteries, a battery recharger, bike parts. Okay, also what I was carrying on the bike, on my back, was a very light backpack with a continual supply of water through a drinking tube, which was essential. It could mean I wouldn't have to deal with water for half a day. I also used that in the tent at night. It was nice to just have that little water bladder handy, just suck on the tube in the tent, no spilling or anything. Also in that backpack on my back was the rain gear, frog togs, which those frog togs were really just paper thin. I wouldn't recommend those for anything unless you had money to throw away. You can't go into the brambles without snagging that thing and ripping it. So, I mean, it served its purpose, mostly a pillow every night. Okay, I want to talk about psychological issues with riding and touring long distances on a bike. I thought what was best for me was not having an option to quit. I couldn't stop and go back home. I didn't have a home, which during that first week I thought about that almost every day. What the hell am I doing? because that was the ball breaker. That was the breaking in of your body that first week. You could train. I trained with the bicycle and weight in the back, maybe 10 miles a day, but that's not enough. I had a full backpack on, way too much stuff, and for the second part of that first week, it was hot and humid, riding through Indiana, traveling south into a hot wind. Now, if that wasn't the ball breaker to break in with, I don't know what else could be. And I had a lot of hills to deal with. I was on all back roads through Indiana. Okay, so other psychological issues are body pain that affects your mind. I had chapped ass cheeks. I had to get a triple gel seat cover, which would only, is good for the first half of the day, and I'm still having those issues. I had to put Band-Aids on and anti-infectant cream and stuff, so the Band-Aids were key. I'd just layer the Band-Aids and it would work with slight pain. There's muscle pain in my butt cheeks that requires me to stop every day, requires you to stop every day, and it's going to affect your mind. I think the next biggest thing that affected my mind was the heat. I had that dark helmet on, and riding in the midday heat would just make me almost delirious. I was probably dehydrated, and that heat just heated up my brain to the point where A, I had to just fall out in the shade if I could find it, or B, stop, rest anywhere in the shade with maybe air conditioning, go to a store and get cooled off in the air conditioning. But mostly a good break, a water break, a food break would kind of set me back on the right track. Other psychological issues, if you're stealth camping, looking for free places to camp, you're constantly thinking about that. Man, that's a great place. Oh, look, there's another great place. But then you're like looking for houses, you're looking, all you see, or what I saw, was no trespassing signs for the whole first leg of the trip and the first half of the second trip. I would say the best way to stealth camp is right along the highway somewhere. If you can kind of get away from the traffic sound and hide yourself, you're in good standings. No one's going to bother you. You just have to deal with the noise. I was constantly trying to take care of the body. It's like the number one thing. And then after that, with maybe pain pills, I have back issues. That was the biggest problem. After the initial cramping, it wasn't too bad. I never had any leg issues. So after taking care of the body, which included horrible sleeping, sweating, hot conditions, biting insects that got right through my tent screen, those were horrible. That was like, the wind was the worst nemesis on my trip, and the bugs probably the second, all the way through the beginning of Oklahoma. Poison ivy was everywhere in that first leg of the trip and into the Ozarks. After taking care of the body, you got to take care of the bike, which I think I let go a little long at first, but I did give it a thorough cleaning. I used that stove fuel, that white gas, the Coleman stove fuel, to break that grease down on the chain and clean it. I did that maybe 4 times, 5 times on the trip. I think I let the spokes get loose, and that was an issue with the wheel. But I'll tell you, I'm glad I replaced it, because that wheel was out of true, and I rode probably over 1,000 miles on a wheel with a very slight dip in the Probably the next issue would be automobile traffic and road conditions. I found the best traveling conditions on the divided 4-lane highways with ample shoulder room for a bicycle. However, there was always garbage, glass, stones that would stick into the tires, and I'd have to pick them out twice a day. But on those roads, you're also breathing in those fumes. It was just horrible. If the wind was blowing across the highway to my side where I was biking, I would get 4 lanes of traffic fumes. As far as lesser road conditions, I had issues on the small 2-lane roads through rural areas. Barely any room. I could probably count on both hands the number of cars that got too close to me, that didn't have patience. You know, I have those images ingrained in my mind and brain right now, because they were all ridiculously too close. I would say, if you're touring, use a mirror. You gotta use a mirror to know if it's coming and to prepare for it. On a lot of these highways, you have the pavement with grooves in it on the right side of the road, which I rode on the right side and the cars were on the left side. If you hear those tires coming over the grooves, they're getting too close. So for the most part, the traffic wasn't a problem, just mostly something to concentrate on. And also, if it's really heavy traffic, you have poor riding area, it's going to stress you out. And I had a few days just ruined. And on those days, you can be distracted, not take care of the bike, not take care of your body. Finding resting points on those days away from the traffic is difficult. I want to say that as far as riding conditions go, I was constantly on the lookout for debris and glass, things that could get stuck in my tires. Going through cities, it's especially important to look out for broken glass. Many times down south near Texas, southwest, I had to literally ride in the traffic lane because there was so much garbage and dirt and stuff on the side of the roads. But that didn't seem to be a problem. I was fortunate to get a food EBT card in Tennessee. I don't know if I really deserved it or not, and it wasn't an extravagant amount of money, but I was able to travel the second leg with only using that food card. So that was a real money saver. Lodging, of course, is key. You got to wash up. The problem with that, I mean, just paying for a shower, you have to consider leaving all of your things unattended. I had a lock to lock the bike, but somebody could go through that pack and get all the stuff they wanted, destroy the bike. So the best scenario is a motel room. You bring everything in and it's nice and safe. I think I stopped 4 times in a month. Next is like RV parks or state campgrounds. You can kind of get by cheaply, under 20 bucks, roughly 20 bucks, to have some hot water, picnic table, etc. I had one place had a laundry facility. Laundry is also key. I used one laundromat to completely wash up and shave in. I had many guardian angels on the journey. I think if somebody offers you some help, assistance, in whatever form, I think you should take it. I stayed at a city park a little early in the day on one occasion, and I felt that it was a good thing that I accepted the offer to stay in the city park. I wasn't really riding for a cause. Some people say it's necessary. I had my own personal cause that I shared just on a small basis with a few individuals. I did some night riding through the desert area of New Mexico. I hadn't planned to ride at night. It's fairly dangerous, I think, with drunk drivers. After it gets dark, man, I did not want to be on the road. However, this highway was a 4-lane divided highway with very little traffic. I mean, the first night I rode maybe 5 hours, 6 hours. I could count on both hands the number of cars that passed behind me, so it was very little traffic. The second night, closer to Roswell, near 5 in the morning, after 5 hours of riding, the traffic got a little bit too heavy. Because I would ride in the dark. I would turn my lights off and just follow the white line in the traffic lane, and it wasn't a problem. When someone came behind, I turned the red flasher on, turned my headlamp on. For the oncoming traffic, I would have to cover my eyes from the light. So it was a good tactic. And also the winds here in the southwest, especially New Mexico, pick up, and they were coming right into my face during the day. Just incredibly demoralizing. And at night I could travel twice as fast. The winds basically dropped to nil, nothing. So I would say carry flashlights in your touring pack. I had a headlamp for reading. That was what I used up front for the driving in the dark light, and the red flasher on the back. And for those, I had a battery charger for the motels. I would charge those batteries.